If you're still not sure how AI and GPTs can actually fit into your business, you're not alone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a simple process of spotting real, practical use cases for GPTs that can save you time, boost your results, or just make your life easier. Let's get into it. With this video, I have two goals. First, I want to teach you how to identify use cases for useful custom GPTs in your business. And second, I want to equip you with the tools that you need to take action and build them out. My hope is that by the end of this video, you have everything that you need to take the next steps to implement these GPTs into your business. As a quick introduction, my name is Ian Gatsky. I live in Tempe, Arizona, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm the former chief operating officer at a marketing agency called Rock Rose Productions. And in that position, I had the unique opportunity to spend countless hours figuring out how to actually make this technology and these tools work for us and our team. Recently, earlier this year, I exited that business to start implement AI, and here on this YouTube channel I just teach other business owners how to do everything that I do, so that hopefully you can skip all of the pain that I went through of making the mistakes and not figuring out how to actually get these tools to work. And my background is I'm not a techie guy. I don't have a software development degree or wasn't a coder. I don't know how to code still today, basically. I studied marketing and philosophy in college, but the reason I say that is because if I can figure out how to use these tools and make them useful for my business, I know that you can too. And my hope is that with the content here on this YouTube channel, I can accelerate that process for you so you can skip all of the mistakes and wandering around to get to the point where you're just building useful tools for your business and reaping the rewards. So if you're interested in that, hit subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind, but let's get into the rest of the presentation. Okay, to get started, I want to go through a quick recap of what custom GPTs are to ensure that we're all on the same page. So custom GPTs are purpose-built versions of ChatGPT or any large language model for your unique use case, trained to follow your specific process to complete all of the tasks that you're training this GPT to do. A simple formula for creating custom GPTs is you pair your instructions with your custom knowledge base to build your custom GPT for your unique use case, right? Really, these GPTs are an embodiment of the evolution that AI is going through from general purpose to purpose built, right? Similar to the internet, when it first came out, it was this generalized tool that was complicated to use, difficult to navigate, and evolved into purpose built apps and websites. Like you go to Amazon to buy stuff, you go to YouTube to watch videos, you go to Expedia to book travel, right? AI is going through that same evolution from these general purpose tools that are kind of difficult to use, hence the general large language models, into purpose-built versions of AI built to do very specific tasks, making it much easier to use and eliminating a lot of the pain that most people experience when trying to get AI to do what they want it to do. So custom GPTs really are an embodiment of that, where we're going from general purpose to purpose-built. Cool. So you can build custom GPTs on a ton of different platforms. The most popular are ChatGPT and Chip.ai, but there are new platforms coming out every single week. Really, don't get caught up in the platform that you use to build custom GPTs, because the building process and kind of what you need to create in order to build a custom GPT looks very similar, if not almost the exact same, no matter what platform you're building a custom GPT on. So don't get caught up in picking the perfect platform, because if you want to change your mind later on, you can just take all of the training instructions. Basically, you can just move your GPT from one platform to the next super easily. 95% of the GPTs that I build for clients, I build on ChatGPT or Chip.ai. So don't get caught up in all of the hype about all these different platforms. Just pick one and then just start building, right? Just don't let the platform get in the way of you building these GPTs, because that's the most important part. Okay, how can you use GPTs, right? So kind of where can you interface with them? You can interface with the GPTs that you build right in the app. So if you build one on ChatGPT, you can go to your ChatGPT account and then you can chat back and forth or use your custom GPT right there in ChatGPT. Same with any platform. You can connect your GPTs to your Slack workspace, so then your team or you can engage with your GPT through like a Slack channel. You can talk to your GPT through a Slack channel, or you can embed them within a Notion dashboard or a Notion workspace and chat with your GPT there. You can embed them on your website. You can share them with your team or your clients, right? Custom GPTs are very easily shared. So maybe you build a custom GPT to help your clients do some of the work that you're assigning to them. You can send the custom GPT to them. They can do that work and then send the output of that work back to you. And you can also plug custom GPTs into automation trees on Zapier or Make.com or whatever automation platform you want to use. But really, there's a bunch of different places that you can plug your custom GPTs into and interface with them. But why are they useful, right? Why are custom GPTs actually helpful? Why should you care about custom GPTs? Really, first and foremost, they eliminate the need for prompt engineering, right? What I mentioned earlier, the challenge with these general large language model tools is that in order to get them to do what you want them to do, right, they're capable of doing a ton of different stuff, like almost an endless list of things you can use ChatGPT or Claude or Grok to help you with. But in order to get them to do anything really useful or the way that you want it to do it, you have to develop this skill of prompt engineering, right? Just asking the perfect question or giving it really clear instructions. Custom GPTs eliminate the need for that. You don't need to do prompt engineering anymore with custom GPTs. Additionally, they're built to follow your unique process to completing the task that you're training them to do. So you have a proven process that you follow in your business to complete a task that's going to lead to the correct result or output every single time. You can train custom GPTs to follow that process so they do the same thing. They're going to reliably generate a useful output for that task every single time. Also, custom GPTs aren't going to forget what you teach it. If you've ever experienced, right, you have a long thread going back with ChatGPT where you've given it all of your preferences, you've told it exactly how you want it to complete this task, but then, 5 chats later, it just completely forgets and goes back to the old way. Custom GPTs are not going to do that. And then a cool use case for custom GPTs is if you can articulate and capture a decision-making framework that you use in your business, or really any, strategic framework or any framework that you use in your head to make decisions. You can train a custom GPT to emulate that, so you can kind of scale you without having to hire and train a person like you would typically, right? Which is really freaking awesome. All right, so now that we're all on the same page as to what custom GPTs are, let's get into how to identify use cases for your business. The first thing that you're going to need to do is reset your lens. When I was first trying to figure out the custom GPTs that I should build out for our marketing agency, I was getting caught up in just asking myself, how can I use custom GPTs in our marketing agency, right? Like as a whole, I was thinking too big and too broad in our business. So the first thing that you need to do is get more specific, right? You need to break up the machine that is your business into the different process categories within your business and then zero in on that process category, right? If we're asking broad questions, we're going to get broad answers. We want really specific answers or use cases or ideas. We want to get down to the specific task that we want to build a custom GPT to help us with. So to do that, the first thing that you're going to do is look at your business in process categories, right? You're going to dig into your marketing process, your sales process, your client onboarding process, your service delivery process, right? All of the different process categories that make up your business, you're going to zero in on each one. Maybe not all at once, right? Maybe you just focus on marketing, right? I want to build useful custom GPTs for our marketing process, right? But zero in on one process category and then pull out the tasks that you want to consider from each category. Once you zero in on one of your process categories and you identify a task that you want to consider building a custom GPT to help you with, you're going to ask these 4 questions. First, can ChatGPT help with this task, right? If ChatGPT or any large language model can't help with this task, it's not going to make sense to build a custom GPT for it because it's probably not possible. These are like physical world, type tasks, right? Like taking on a client meeting or, physical world tasks, right? Just ask yourself, can ChatGPT help me with this task? If not, it's not going to make sense to build a custom GPT for it because it's probably not possible. But if yes, we'll move on to the second question. Second question, is this a task that you do regularly or repeatedly in your business? If not, it doesn't make sense to build a custom GPT for a task that you don't do regularly, right? Like if you only do it once a year, probably doesn't make sense to build a GPT for it. There are other opportunities that we can build first. Cool. So if this is a task that you do regularly or repeatedly, on like a quarterly basis, probably at least, we'll move on to the third question. The third question is, when you are completing this task, do you follow a consistent process, set of rules, or leverage like a unique logic to completing this task? Or is the output, like the finished product of this task, pretty consistent every single time, right? That doesn't mean that every time you do this task, it has to be 100% identical or the output is 100% the exact same, but there should be some kind of reasoning pattern or structure that stays the same every time you complete this task. One example of this is a client proposal, like creating proposals for your clients, right? While the content within the proposal will be different every time, the structure of your proposals is going to look very similar, right? You're going to have a recap of the client's goals, their pain points, their desired outcomes, a list of the scope of work, a price, and then a list of next steps, right? So the output looks pretty similar, but maybe the process of getting there or the content within that proposal is going to be different. Cool. So if we answer no to this, it's going to be viable for a custom GPT, but it's really not the high impact custom GPTs that we're looking for. But if you answered yes, we'll continue down and ask the fourth and final question. The final question is this task time consuming or an existing bottleneck within our business? If yes, that is a high priority custom GPT for your business. But if not, right, if this is a task that only takes you, a couple minutes to complete every single time, or it's not something that your team is getting hung up on when it comes to service delivery, or you're waiting on your clients to finish this task, it just doesn't make sense to build a custom GPT to help you with it, right? Like, it's already something that moves pretty quickly. But if you answered yes to all four of these questions, that is a high priority custom GPT that you should build out in your business that is going to, really transform the way that your business operates, because you're saving, hours of work every single month, every time you complete that task. So those are the opportunities that we're looking for. Cool. So you have a task, take it through this framework. If you answer yes to all four, you should build a custom GPT for that task. To make this a little easier too, there are some other questions that I like to ask to kind of spark some initial ideas. First, what are you consistently using ChatGPT for right now? Second, do you have any saved prompts? If you have any saved prompts, that is a clear indication that that prompt should just be turned into a custom GPT, because the custom GPT is going to be able to execute whatever task that prompt is helping you with much more effectively. And it's going to be a lot more dynamic, because you're going to be able to engage with that custom GPT with separate things than just that one saved prompt. Third, are there any long threads that you have saved in your ChatGPT account, and why? Again, another clear indication for whatever you're going to that thread for consistently, you should just package that up into a custom GPT, again, because it's going to be able to work so much better. It's not going to get extremely slow. It's not going to forget what you tell it. So if you have a long thread that you're constantly going back to, it's a clear indication that we should probably build a custom GPT that just replaces that thread. Fourth and fifth, are there any repeated tasks in your business that are done more or less the same way every time? And finally, are there any documents that you wish you had a first draft generator for in your business? Those are just some other basic questions that you can ask to spark some ideas, and then kind of come back to this decision-making framework. Take that task through these four questions, and if you answer yes to all of them, that's a high-priority custom GPT that you should build in your business. Okay, now I want to take you through a actual example of how we uncovered a use case in our marketing agency, kind of the process that I went through that spawned one of the most useful custom GPTs that I've built to date. So this is a service delivery GPT example for a content creation agency. So let's say we have a content creation agency with the following offer, right? So we want to build a GPT that's going to help us in our service delivery. So we have to look at, okay, what are the tasks that happen in our service delivery? So a content creation agency has the following offer. They're responsible for designing a content strategy for a client, coming up with the content ideas, writing the video scripts, capturing, editing, and publishing the content, and then analyzing the analytics to identify what's working, what's not, and how the content strategy should be adjusted accordingly. So what we would do, we have the list of tasks that go into our service. Then we're going to ask ourselves, which of these tasks can ChatGPT help us with, right? That first question. I came up with these four, right? ChatGPT can help me design my client's content strategy, come up with the content ideas, write video scripts, and analyze the analytics, right? It can't help me capture the content, edit, or publish the content. So what we would do is we would train a custom GPT to execute those tasks following our unique process, right? So we created the Creative Assistant GPT that helped us design clients' content strategies, create a content calendar, write video scripts, and analyze the analytics. What I want to do now is actually demo and show you what this Creative Assistant GPT actually looks like, so you can get a sense of what these GPTs are capable of doing. Okay, so what we're looking at on the screen now is a version of this Creative Assistant that we built out for one of our clients at our marketing agency. So if we wanted to come to this Creative Assistant and have it create a content calendar for us, we would just click Create Content Calendar Protocol here. Now, when you initiate a protocol using the protocol method, which we'll get into in a minute, the GPT is going to follow the step-by-step process that we want it to in order to complete that task. For the task of creating a content calendar, I broke it down into 3 steps, where step 1 was it's going to present to me the initial information, or the information that it has about our client, about their target audience, the types of content we create for them, their weekly content framework, present it to me so that I can confirm that it's correct or make any tweaks or adjustments. If everything looks good, we would just say proceed, and then it would move into step 2, where we're going to create a 1-week content calendar. So the reason I had it do this is because I wanted to get a sense of where the GPT's head was at in the content that it was recommending, and it's easier to kind of give it feedback and tweak everything on a 1-week content calendar than a full 1-month content calendar. So I added this step so that we could kind of have a moment where we can go back and forth, give it feedback, align on my preferences. Like maybe we have a specific theme that we wanted to focus on for this month, but I could communicate that here in step 2. Cool. So generates a 1-week content calendar for our client. If everything looked good, I would just say proceed. And then it would move into step 3, where it generates the full 1-month content calendar for our client. So while it's doing that, let's go back through this, right? So if we wanted go to regular ChatGPT and have it help us with this task, we would have to type in a gigantic prompt that included a ton of context about our client, who they are, all of this information about their target audience, the weekly content framework that we're going to use, the types of content that's worked well in the past, all of this stuff, right? And it still probably wouldn't generate what we wanted it to. We'd still probably have to continue to go back and forth. But if we look at this, right, we did create content calendar, 4 words, proceed 5 words, and then 6 words, and then boom, we have a full 1-month content calendar for our client that's completely aligned with their brand, their strategy that we developed for them. And we did that in for this example, right, we did it in like a minute, but maybe what we had budgeted for was like 30 minutes of creating a content calendar for our clients using this tool. Okay, so that's great. Like we were able to take the time that we would spend building a content calendar for our clients down from 2 hours to what we had budgeted. It was 30 minutes, but I mean, we went through that together. It took like 5 minutes to really get a solid first draft of a content calendar, but that's not what our clients were paying us for, right? Our clients weren't paying us to create content calendars quickly. They were paying us for the result, right? They wanted more views on their social media. They wanted leads coming in from social media. So they didn't care that it was taking us, 25% of the time to create a content calendar. They wanted the result. So was this GPT still helping us deliver and create high quality content that generated the results that they were paying us for, while doing it much more efficiently? The answer was yes, right? So we use this custom GPT to help us with a client and all of our clients, but this is just one example. This client started working with us last spring in March of 2024. I finished building this tool in about June or July of last summer. So there were a few months there in the beginning where we weren't using this tool. But before they started working with us, they were getting 24,000 views per month from their Instagram and Facebook combined. Then by December through January December 17th, January 2024 to January 16th, 2025, they were getting 1.2 million views per month from Instagram and Facebook combined. So Instagram, they were getting just over 200,000. Facebook, they were getting over 1 million views per month. So the purpose of this is just to say it's doing it faster and it's also creating high quality ideas. So let's turn this onto your business. Let's brainstorm some ideas for your business. So I built a GPT that will help you identify use cases for GPTs in your business. So when I do this presentation live, we usually stop and pause for a couple of minutes, but here on YouTube, you can just pause the video, scan this QR code, hit the Identify Use Cases Protocol button with that GPT. The GPT is going to ask you a series of questions about your business to gather context in order to recommend a short list of potential custom GPTs that you can build out in your business. Comment some of them below. I would love to hear the ideas that you come up with, but pause the video, scan that QR code, and then come back and press play. Okay, so you're back and you have a list of custom GPTs that you can build out in your business. Now what, right? You have the ideas, but again, we didn't come to this video just to get ideas. I wanted to actually teach you how to build these GPTs now, right? You have a list of ideas or one idea for a GPT that you're excited about. Now, how do you actually build them? That's where the protocol method comes in, which is a framework that I've developed for building useful custom GPTs over the last couple of years, right? So what is the protocol method? Like I said, it's a framework for building useful custom GPTs that actually do the work that matters in your business, right? Getting these GPTs to actually do what you want them to do, right? So it maps the functionality of the GPT or of the tool to the specific task that you actually want it to help you with, right? If we think back to that creative assistant GPT example from just a minute ago, right? We went to the create content calendar protocol, and then it followed a 3-step process to generating that final output that I was looking for, which was the 1-month content calendar, right? So you have each protocol follows a step-by-step process to generate that useful final output. So there's a 5-step process to building a GPT using the protocol method. Step 1 is you got to create what's called a blueprint, right? This is kind of your job description for your GPT, where it's going to define the purpose of your GPT, outline the list of all the specific tasks or protocols that you're going to train this GPT to do, and then you outline the knowledge base or the context of the information that this GPT is going to need to know about your business, or really any context that this GPT is going to find useful to completing the tasks that you're assigning it to do. So creating that blueprint, is super important because it's going to make everything else so much easier. Everything else in this process so much easier if you have a clear plan in place on exactly how you want this tool to work. So doing a good job here in step 1 is going to make everything else way easier. Cool. Once you have that blueprint completed, the second step is you're going to write the instructions for each protocol. So that's going to include the protocol guidelines and the step-by-step instructions. I've recorded an entire video that goes through this entire process with you step by step and also shares the tool that I use to build along the way, which I'm going to share in a second. So step 2, writing the instructions for each protocol. So that's that step-by-step instructions that you saw with the Create Content Calendar. Step 3 is you're going to write what are called the configure instructions. These are kind of the overarching behavior instructions for the GPT. Cool. Once you have that done, you're going to do the branding and customization. So you're going to come up with a name for your GPT, a profile photo, a short description. You're going to check all the capabilities boxes, right? You want your GPT to be able to do everything. Once you have these 4 steps done, you have a GPT that's ready to launch. Anytime that you build one of these GPTs, there's always going to be a little bit of a refinement process. So deploy it, get it in the hands of the people that are going to use it, get their feedback, and then make those adjustments, but continue to test, refine, and improving it over time. So if we look at this process here and we think back to that use case framework, right, those 4 questions that we asked of any given task to identify opportunities for high impact custom GPTs, and we take the task of building a custom GPT using the protocol method through that framework, right? Can ChatGPT help with this task? Yes. Is this a task that I do regularly and repeatedly? Yes. Do I follow a consistent process when I complete this task? Yes. Is this task time consuming or a bottleneck? Absolutely, right? This building custom GPTs does take time. So I built a custom GPT that I use every single day to build the useful custom GPTs for my clients. More on that in a second. So to summarize what we covered today, first we went through a quick recap of what custom GPTs are. I taught you how to identify use cases for your business, and I equipped you with the framework and the process that you need in order to build these GPTs on your own. So you have what you need. Now it's time to take action and get these GPTs deployed in your business. To help you do so, I've put together what I call the AI Implementation Toolkit. This toolkit will include a PDF that outlines the first 3 GPTs that you should build in your business, kind of the functionality. Like, you should build GPTs in your business with these functions. So if you're still struggling to come up with ideas, that PDF will give you a clear list of here are the first 3 that you should build in your business. Second, it's going to include the link to that custom GPT, or include the access to the custom GPT builder tool that I mentioned just a moment ago. This is the same tool that I use every single day to help me build custom GPTs using the protocol method, right? So it's just a custom GPT that helps me build custom GPTs, and I use it every single day. So I'll share that with you. It's also going to include the link to the video tutorial that I talked about that will walk you through the entire building process using the custom GPT builder tool from start to finish. So you can take your idea that you came up with in watching this video, use that tool, watch that video to then actually build it and make it real for your business. And then finally, it's going to include a link to this slide deck, so you can always come back and reference it at your own pace. And you can get all of this, the AI Implementation Toolkit, for the low price of absolutely free. You just scan this QR code, fill out a quick form, and it'll fire everything over to your email for you to start using here today. Cool. So pause this, scan that QR code. But for anybody that really wants to take action and wants my help in building out the blueprint, or kind of outlining the functionality of their tool, I offer these things called blueprinting sessions. I typically charge $297 for these sessions when I'm at workshops. But for anybody here watching on YouTube, you can get a 1-hour session with me where we're going to dig into the operations of your business, uncover the use cases for GPTs in your business, and then I will put together one of those blueprints for each GPT that we come up with, right? Which is just a full outline of the purpose, the list of protocols, the knowledge base outline, right? So step 1 of that 5-step process of building using the protocol method, I will help you complete that. So you can just scan this QR code, book a time with me, and we'll get you off and running. So then you can take that blueprint and then build out the GPTs for your business. So thank you all so much. If you found value in this, drop a like, hit subscribe, share it with a friend. Really appreciate you all being here. And I look forward to the next one.